My first guest this morning is sort of calling us out. Women are getting it wrong. Studio 5 fitness contributor Emily Nelson says you should be focused on your stomach, but not the way it looks. She's here with the push to go hardcore from the inside out. How you doing, sister?
So good.
You with me on those sugar shakes a little bit?
Oh, totally.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
too much. It starts like a week in advance.
Yes!
So that's the problem.
Cut it off. All right, so today focus on the core. You are pretty passionate about this. Why is the core so important?
Well, it's so important because all your stabilizing muscles are all here. Everything that's supporting your lower back, your spine, any movement that we do, if you do not have a strong core, you're gonna feel it in other places. But from generations of time, how we've been approached about the core is do this to get these six-pack abs, do this to get this hardcore, these ripped abs, and we're looking at the aesthetic look, and we should not be focusing on the aesthetic look of the abs. We should be focusing on what I say in my classes is we want a hard core from the inside out. We want to be hardcore, and rather than this aesthetic look that just isn't achievable for the masses.
Well, there's a genetic component to that.
Absolutely. So what I think, I know people don't want to hear this, and I truly believe that if you have goals and you want to work for something, like I believe in you. I'm not saying like you can't go after that.
Yeah.
But 99% of when you see someone with those rock hard ripped core, a lot of that is genetics. I'd say like 80% of that is genetics because we all carry our fat and our muscle ratios in different parts of our bodies. So you could have the strongest core, such tight muscles, work on your core and not have that ripped look. And that's why I don't want that to be what we're trying to achieve. I want to drop the aesthetic and look for how am I strengthening my trunk from the inside out and the full thing.
So when we say core muscles, and what does that mean exactly?
Okay, so the core is made up of all different things. You have your diaphragm, your lower back extensors, your pelvic muscles actually play a huge part.
That's all your core?
All your core and the abdominals. So what that's called, all of those put together, is your transverse abdominals. And so when we say that and we do things when we're working the entire, so I also like to refer to it as the trunk, but it's made up of all those different parts. And if, for example, if your lower pelvic muscles are not being strengthened, you're going to feel that in your spine and your back support if you're not working on all of it.
So when we say core, I think most women's minds go to crunches, sit-ups, but you say even like squats will help with that.
Yeah, so I think if you look up like what's the best way to strengthen your core, it's like I think we realize strengthening your entire body is also working to strengthen your entire core, but it's where your focus goes. So a lot of time, yes, there is some traditional core work that you can do that can really work all these muscles in a very slow and controlled way, and we're gonna kind of get down on the ground and show some of those. But what it is it's about focusing on the core when you're doing other movements, that breath work. So if you're doing a squat, it's like, okay, what we talked about, that breathing, that moment, as you go down, and anytime you're pushing through it, you wanna breathe out like you're blowing out a candle to engage the abdominals. And so that's what you're gonna be doing is as you're doing a squat or a deadlift or anything you're doing in exercise, you wanna think about taking that deep breath, that inhale, expanding the ribs, which we're gonna do on the ground, exhaling out, locking the core in, and then you're stabilizing your back, you're stabilizing all these things, and you're working your core. You don't have to do just core work to work the core. It's about focusing on the core when you're doing all your different muscles.
So it starts with that breath work. What else? Show us some other things.
Okay, so let's get down on the ground. We're gonna lay down. You like this kind of workout?
I do.
Can I do that?
It's a little slow and sleepy.
We always, look, we're matching in green.
Coordinating.
Today. We always do that. All right, so we're gonna lay flat on our back. And I know that I've talked about this, but you know, not everybody watches every day. Okay, they might. We're gonna reiterate.
Better.
So feet planted on, they always need a reminder though, right? You want feet planted on the floor. So the first thing we're gonna do is, Brooke, I've taught you this, is the blueberries all the way down the spine.
This was revolutionary to me.
Yes.
I had never heard this until you said it, so say it again.
Okay, so you're gonna pretend like you have blueberries lined you down your spine, and I want you to smash them. I want you to push down. The second you do that, do you feel your lower abs?
Totally.
So what you're doing is when you do that and you press down into the mat, you're getting a neutral pelvis.
Yeah.
Anytime you're doing core work, you wanna start with that neutral pelvis. You don't wanna have that arch in the back. You wanna flatten it. So that's the big thing. So I want you to take a nice inhale. As you do, you're gonna almost like expand those ribs.
Okay.
Inhale, and as you exhale, like you're blowing out a candle, instead of pooching the abs up like, you wanna push down and smash those blueberries.
Okay.
So whenever we set up core work, that's what we wanna see. So the first exercise, it's gonna seem very simple, but once again, keeping that lower abs, you're gonna just lift your foot up and down, but do not let it come slow and controlled, using that lower core, and while breathing and pushing the entire core down. Listen, I know you're like, Emily, this is the easiest core work
you know what?
I've ever done.
This is brain work though too.
Yes.
Like you really have to think about it.
The second I just start going like this, I'm doing nothing, right? But if you are pushing, flattening those blueberries, I'm like kind of getting red in the face because I'm concentrating on that. So that's just a very basic, but that's working all those 5 muscle groups that we talked about.
Yeah.
So the next one that we're gonna do is we're gonna go into a bridge. So think about rolling up like spine, like every inch of your spine. You're gonna lift, tucking that pelvis up, and you're gonna lift and roll vertebrae by vertebrae all the way up to the top.
Again, slow and controlled.
Slow and controlled.
This is a game changer.
As you come down, you're gonna roll it down slow and controlled, thinking about vertebrae, every vertebrae, until the bottom is there. And once again, this is it seems simple, but I promise when you're focusing on that core, what are you doing at the top, right?
Yeah.
And then you're focusing all the way down.
And is this something that the more you do it, you'll be able to pick up the speed?
Yes, absolutely. Because I just don't want you to just, when you go into a class and they start doing these, don't just start throwing your hips. Think about rolling everything. And the slower you go at first, and then once you get
pick it up,
you're gonna get it. And then you're working the entire core. So what you're doing is you're strengthening your core. So when you do other ab exercises, you're ready. All right.
One more minute. What else?
Okay. So we're gonna go on our hands and knees real quick on all fours. So we'll be real quick. This next one is you're gonna extend. So you're gonna take opposite arm as leg. Okay. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
So what I don't want to see is once again an arch in the back. Pretend like you're flat and you're bringing it in. And then you're crunching in. So you can keep it with a balance, or you could simply switch. And you want to creep that long line, no tilt. Okay, so we're going, that's another one. The last one is a plank. So we hear a lot about crunches. Plank is probably, if you want a full body core move, your go-to move. I would do a plank over sit-ups any day. Okay. So your options, obviously, you can be on your knees, right?
I'll take that.
Or on your toes. The biggest thing we see is a dropped glutes or a raised. But we want to see joint over joint, shoulder over elbow, or even shoulder over wrist, wherever you're at. Plank work is so good. You can do oblique plank work, anything, because you're working your full body and you're not just doing that crunch where you're creating that pooch, or anytime if you have diastasis recti or any lower back problems.
A lot of women do post.
Absolutely. You want to be very careful. There's so many guides out there to help heal your abs from that, and what you're going to be doing for that is breath work. Those slow and controlled movements, it's so important.
Hardcore.
Hardcore from the inside out.
From the inside out. Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you.